Hi everyone, welcome to the University of Chester Options, Pathways and Decision Making Guide. Whilst all the decisions you've got to make this year can feel a little bit daunting, this is actually a really exciting time. You're getting to make your first educational independent decisions, getting to choose things for you based on what you're interested in and as an investment in your future. So we're here, as you'll see, with lots of different interesting, useful and fun resources for you to use to help you make those decisions, and they're specifically designed for your age group. So for year 9, I know some of you are in year 8, that's fine, but they are specifically for people in your phase of education who are making these decisions and hopefully should answer all of your questions. To start off with, we're going to give you a brief video where I give you some of the overarching information about the GCSE options process, what it's for, how to start making those decisions, and some of the different pathways you can explore. My name's Chantal, I work here on the outreach team. Everyone on my team, our job is to help young people like you make decisions about their future. So let's get started and then you can get into those resources. So just to show you where you're up to, as you know, you are here in year 8 or year 9, and your job at the moment is to explore all the available subjects. You will never study this many subjects again, and your job at the moment is to work out what you like, what you prefer, what you're good at, where your skills are, and really try everything and see what works for you. Then you're going to move into year 10 and 11, so your GCSE phase. This is what we call level 2. I'll mention levels a little bit as we go, but that's studied age 14 to 16. Then you'll move into year 12 and 13, so college, A-levels, BTEC, T-levels, apprenticeships, whatever you prefer. And after the age of 18, at level 4, you've got potentially endless possibilities, so we'll touch a little bit on that. So what is the options process? Some of you will know a bit about it already, and some of you will be about to find out. GCSEs are designed to give you a really broad range of knowledge. We sometimes call it the funnel, because at the top you've got possibly 9, 10, 11 subjects that you study in a little bit of detail, and as I say, you're building up your taste for those subjects. Then it leads you into more focused studies. So once you finish your GCSEs, you'll move into, as I mentioned, A-level, BTEC, T-levels, things like that, apprenticeships, and you'll study less subjects in more detail. Just so you're aware, I'm sure most of you know this already, but Maths, English and Science GCSE are compulsory for everybody. That's to make sure that you have functional literacy and numeracy. All of us who left education a long time ago, we all still have to show people our Maths and English GCSEs. You may also find at your school that you have a language requirement. So it could be Welsh or it could be a foreign language that you have to study. That just depends, but find out what your compulsory GCSEs are. For everything else, you'll use your remaining free choices to focus on the subjects you prefer and the ones that will help you to reach your future goals. So for example, if you're interested in veterinary or animal science, that might be that you pick separate sciences, but we'll come back to that. So that's the point of the process. In terms of who can help you, there are people like me who work at universities who can help you with the different phases, and obviously all these resources are here to help you. But you'll also have your subject teachers who are experts and can tell you about the jobs and pathways relating to that subject area. Your form tutor will help you, and you may well have a careers teacher or advisor to ask as well. You can speak to your parents, caregivers or relatives, and look out for any special options assemblies or evenings at school. You may find that you get a lot of input about this, and make sure you take it all in and use it. You should also read any information or handouts you're given as well. So what should you think about? A lot of people panic when they have to think about their GCSE options because they're worried that they're committing to something for the rest of their life. All you can do is go on what you know at the time, so what you're interested in, what you enjoy, what you're good at, and also what could take you in the direction you're thinking of. You don't have to have an exact job in mind, but you may have a particular subject area or job family, which we'll come to shortly, that interests you. Also, a balance of subjects can be really good. So lots of people find that looking at subjects that are both academic, so involve a lot of reading and writing, can be balanced out by practical subjects as well. So you may find that studying art or music or sport might help you to do a different kind of learning. They're all the same amount of work, but it's a different kind of learning, and that might be a really good balance for you. As I mentioned, Maths and English are essential for any job role or education pathway up till GCSE. But if you have a dream job, I'd really recommend working backwards. So find out what the qualifications and skills required for that dream job are, and then you can work backwards. So for example, if you want to be a midwife in the UK, for most universities you would need an A-level in biology, so it may be that you take separate science. Now the same thing would go for as I mentioned, veterinary or medicine as well, so it's important that you find things out at this point. If you're really not sure, it's worth doing a bit of window shopping. I think it's worth doing that anyway. So having a look around, seeing what there is, seeing what you like the look of. You don't have to know exactly what you want to do, but you do have to know what's out there. That's really important. So you've got the time, take that time and do some window shopping as well. So in terms of those options, where could they take you? Because as I mentioned, they're just one step on your path to your future career. As we've said, you're currently in the GCSE phase, you're about to start the GCSE phase of your education. And then you could potentially go in one of several directions. So you could go into A-levels in a sixth form college or your school. You could go and study something called BTEC, or a new qualification called T-levels, where you study one subject in a lot of detail. A T-level actually has a big bit of work experience in it as well. Or you could do an apprenticeship. We'll touch on those a little bit more in a second, but that's another option when you're 16 to 18. And then when you've completed that phase and you're 18, the world is your oyster. You can leave education if you would like to, but you can go into a full-time job, into employment. Hopefully you would pick someone who would continue to give you training opportunities, but you can go into full-time employment. You could go into further training, so a college course for those over the age of 18. You could go into something called a degree apprenticeship, where you study for a degree and you work at the same time, or you could go to university in the normal way. So we'll find out a little bit more about all these options, but hopefully what you'll seeing the lines all over the diagram is that you aren't closing any doors no matter what you pick. So although A-levels or BTEC may be a faster route into university, if that's where you want to go, you're not closing any doors if you choose an apprenticeship now. It just has to be the right thing for you. So there are lots of different options, but it's important that you find out what each of them is and whether each one of them would suit you. So just to tell you a little bit more about the three post-18, so when you've finished college options. Firstly, apprenticeships, which you may have heard of. They are a paid training opportunity. So you can do them when you're 16 to 18. They're what we call level 3. So if you remember me mentioning that level 2 was GCSE, they're the one level above that, equivalent to A-levels or a BTEC. You study one subject and you go to college and you work. Every apprenticeship is different, but you normally work 3 or 4 days a week and are in college 1 or 2 days a week. And the studying that you do informs the job that you do. So all the study you do is about the job that you're doing. They have existed for a long time in trade, so things like motor vehicle and construction, but actually they exist in a huge number of subjects now, including hair and beauty, photography, graphic design, catering. There are so many different kinds, so have a look and see what there are. Just to mention, you do get paid for an apprenticeship, but it isn't the same amount of money as someone over the age of 18 would get, so it can make a difference to your financial situation, but it isn't normally enough to move out on or things like that, so just have that in mind. There are also higher apprenticeships, so once you're 18 you can go to a big further education college and continue an apprenticeship or start a new one, and that's the equivalent to the first 2 years of university, so that's a higher level one. And there are, as I mentioned, a newish opportunity called degree apprenticeships, where you go to university, do a degree and have a job at the same time. They are a lot of work, but they are a really good opportunity, and sometimes they take a bit longer than a degree. A degree normally takes 3 years. These can take 4 or 5 because you're doing 2 things at once, but if your employer has these available, it can be a great option. Obviously that might feel really far in the future, but it's just to make you aware of what kind of apprenticeships there are. So how do your GCSEs affect applying for an apprenticeship? As I mentioned, and I'm going to say this several more times today, your maths and English are essential. You have to have your maths and English GCSE to do most progression routes, to go anywhere really. So they'll be important for your apprenticeship. And if you can, choose subjects relating to your chosen area of application. So if there's anything at school that resembles the apprenticeship that you want to do, so if it was, say, an arts-based one, you would pick an arts-based subject at GCSE. See if you can tie your subjects to your apprenticeship. There may not be an exact match, but there may be something close that has skills that you can take over with you. The next option after 18 is employment. So employment, you'll know it as a job, is something you can start when you're 16. You can get a part-time job, gain experience, make some money. There are also apprenticeships, as I mentioned. We would class those as a job because they combine work and study. But when you're 18, you can, if you want to, get a full-time job with full-time pay. Obviously, that can be a really exciting thing to get your first full-time job. The thing I would recommend, which I touched on before, is choosing a company that give you learning opportunities, that help you to keep learning and training. They should have lots of potential for promotions. Some people want to do the same job when they're 18 as when they are 65, but most of us like to change and progress. So look for a company that will help you to do that. So how do your GCSEs affect getting a job? Firstly, as I mentioned before, maths and English are essential. We all have to show those qualifications when we go for a job. As with the apprenticeship, choose subjects that would strengthen your application, but most jobs require a level 3 qualification in a particular subject. So if you've got a dream job that you want to start when you're 18, find out what level 3 qualifications, so A-level, B-Tech, T-levels, apprenticeship, whatever it is, find out what they need. And find out if the job requires a university degree, because you may not be able to start that job when you're 18 if you need a university degree. You'll have to do that first instead. So to move on to our third post-18 option, we've got university. And one of the first questions we always like to ask people is, what is a university? Well, firstly, it's a big school. We are very like a school. We have students, we have teachers, we have different subjects, but we're much, much bigger. But we're essentially somewhere where people come to learn, where people come to teach. We're a place where people go to get a degree. So our qualification is called a degree. And like I say, most of them take about 3 years, but it just depends. And you come out with a degree which says that you are very highly qualified in that subject. So like a GCSE or an A-level, only bigger. That's what our qualification is. That's what we give people. But we also do things like masters, PhDs, which are higher level qualifications you may have heard of. We teach people to be teachers. We do all sorts of different things. We're an international community, which is one of the most exciting things about us. So if you come even to a local university, you'll meet people from lots and lots of different countries, lots of different backgrounds, lots of different cultures. That's one of the most exciting things about universities, is how diverse they are. And it's a place where research is carried out and discoveries are made. Our teachers are experts in their area and they work on different areas of research, which I'll talk about a little bit more, but that's another really exciting thing about university. We're a place that you can live if you want to. Some of our students live with us, some of them don't, but that can be a really big part of the experience. And it's a place to socialise, meet people, join or form clubs and societies, somewhere that you can make new friends, discover new things. So above everything, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to learn, it's an opportunity to do exciting things like maybe study abroad, do work experience, meet new people. So that's, I suppose, the main way we would describe it. Above everything, that university is an opportunity. It's not the right choice for everyone. Some people really benefit from it. Some people don't need to go. It's totally up to you. But if you want it, it is a significant opportunity. So just to touch on a question we get asked all the time, which doesn't relate specifically to your GCSE options, but is really important. And lots of people ask, can I afford to go to university? The short answer is yes, but let me explain why. So you might have heard that when you go to university, the government will lend you the money to go. So you will be able to pay your fees. So you pay for the teaching that you receive and the resources that you can access, and they will give you some money to help you live, but you do have to pay it back. The good news about that is the repayments are very, very affordable, and one of the most important things to know is that you don't need any money up front. So if you agree to go to university, you apply for the student finance loan, and then you will find that the university has paid the tuition fees by the government, and you will receive about every 3 months some money to help you live, but you will not ever be given a bill for going to university, not when you start and not when you finish. So you don't need any money up front. As I mentioned, you borrow the money to pay the fees and to help with living costs. You won't pay anything back until you earn over £26,575 a year. That might sound like a huge amount. It's quite a respectable wage, but you won't pay anything back until you earn over that, and anything you do pay back is calculated based on what you earn. So the more you earn, the more you pay, but it's what we call a sliding scale. So the repayments are very affordable and they're based on what you earn. So you won't ever be asked to give up, half your income or a quarter of your income. It's much, much smaller than that. It's repaid through the tax system as well. So like I say, you won't get a bill. It'll come out with your national insurance and your pension and all the other exciting adult things you've got to look forward to. And whatever you haven't paid back after 30 years will be cancelled out. So it's not a small thing. You will pay back this money for 30 years, but it is affordable. So you shouldn't go to university just on a whim and because you can afford it. But if you want to go, the finance is there to help you, and paying it back is quite affordable. So see it as an investment in your future. So why do people go? Why do people choose to come to university? We have three main reasons. We talk to hundreds, if not thousands, of people a year about this decision. First is professional, second is to do with the level of study we offer, and third is personal. So to explain those in a little bit more detail. Professional means people come because they have to. So if you want to be a doctor, engineer, dentist, teacher, nurse, architect, lawyer, midwife, this list could go on. It's because you have to, and that's a good thing. You don't want someone operating on you in surgery who is not a qualified surgeon. You don't want to walk across a bridge that's been built by someone without an engineering degree. There are just certain things that you need to be qualified for. The other thing to mention is that certain employers will give you more opportunities if you have a degree. So these things are called graduate schemes, and big companies such as Marks and Spencer's or HSBC Bank have these opportunities because they want the skills that someone who's been to university has. Sometimes they want a specific subject, sometimes they don't. It's not necessarily a reason to go to university just on its own, but it's something to be aware of when you're working out if going to university will help you with your future employment. So that's reason number one. Reason number two is because of the level of study. So there are certain subjects you can only study at university. So something like astrophysics, which is the science of the universe, or zoology, which is the identification and protection of animal species and their environments, can only be studied normally at university because we have the equipment for them. They require expertise from our teachers and they require specific equipment. That's one of the most exciting things about university, is that we've got science labs, we've got dance studios, you name it, we've got special equipment for it. So it could be that you want to access those facilities and that equipment. It could also be about the teaching staff. As I mentioned before, the people that teach at universities are also experts in their own field. So someone teaching at university will also be doing research about their particular area. So if you hear on the news that someone has discovered a new planet or found a cure for a disease, that person is probably working at a university as well. And that's a really cool thing because you can become involved with that research as soon as you join the university if you want to. And last but not least is you come for personal reasons, because you've fallen in love with a subject and you want to study it to a high level. Could be any subject. Your career path might be a little bit less clear. Sometimes it applies to sort of arts and humanities courses, but that's not to say there aren't hundreds or thousands of jobs relating to that subject area. It just means it might not be as straightforward as becoming an architect or a vet. It's what we call an intellectual investment, and it gives you something called transferable skills, which are skills that you learn in one area and can transfer to another, like good communication or digital skills. So that's when I mentioned about graduate schemes, that's part of what employers are after when they are looking for graduates. So that's your third reason to come, because you love a subject and you want to see how good you can get at it, and that's a really good reason to come. So when you get here, what can you study? We're going to touch on the job families in just a second, so I won't spend too long in here, but our subjects split roughly into 8 areas. So we've got arts and media, which is obviously everything creative, and as I say, I'll give you a bit more information. Business, education, so working with young people and adults and teaching them. Health and social care, which is things like nursing, midwifery, social work. We've got the humanities, so the subjects relating to things like English, history, philosophy. The life sciences, which split into human and animal, so things like animal science, but also things like sports science and nutrition. We've got the social sciences, so these are quite often excuse me, called the ologies, so things like sociology, psychology, criminology, so looking at society and how it works. And then we've got one of the biggest areas, which is science, technology, engineering and maths, which covers everything from medicine through to automotive design. So as I say, we're going to find out a bit more about those. So what qualifications do you need to get into university? Firstly, you need either A levels, BTEC, T level, or an equivalent qualification. There are quite a few different ones. So if you've got any questions before you choose a qualification, make sure you talk to your teacher or someone like us. You do need those GCSEs, as I mentioned. Those of you living in England, it's grade 4 to 5 or above. In Maths and English in Wales, it's grade A to C. And quite often you need work experience as well. So that's something to think about in year 10 and in year 12. Now what I'd like you to think about are the job families. So this is a term you may or may not have heard before, but it's how we group together the jobs that are out there. So as we go through, make a note of any jobs that interest you or things you haven't heard of before. Obviously, I'm not going to list every single job that is out there, you'll be pleased to hear, but I am going to give you a very brief introduction to the sort of groups that they come in. Now, these could have been grouped in 100 different ways. I've just done it in a way that is sort of basic and quite logical, but you may find jobs as you look at them are grouped into different families. That's no problem at all. We've just done it this way to give you an overview, but as I say, you may find as you go that the job you're interested in sits in something that's called something a little bit different. There's nothing to worry about. I'm going to give you some websites at the end to help you check out these jobs in more detail. So the job families refer to jobs that are related to each other or have skills in common or subject in common or ideas in common. So the first one are the creative arts. So we're looking at art, media, film, music and performing arts. So the visual arts refers to things like fine art, so painting and drawing, photography, graphics, illustration, fashion, textiles, sculpture and interior design. You may know some of these words, you may not know all of them. Make sure you look things up if you haven't heard of them before. And then we've got the performing arts as well, so dance, drama, music and theatre studies. If you want to study any of these, you need to make sure, if you want to work in any of these, you need to make sure that you study them up until you are 18, because whatever pathway you take, you'll need that. We've also got film and media, so filmmaking, things like editing, journalism, digital art, games design. If anyone is interested in working online when they're older, these are the kind of degrees that may be of interest. All of these things exist in apprenticeship form as well. So make sure you check what sort of qualifications you can get. But this job family might be of interest if you're someone creative. So these jobs tend to go to creative people who think a little bit differently, have lots of ideas, want to make things and communicate using their skills, and quite often a specific technology as well, particularly in the visual and media based arts. So it may be that you learn to make particular things in a particular way, but you will be a creative person if you're thinking about these. Our next job family is business, management and entrepreneurship. Business refers to using your expertise to run and grow businesses, of course, so they can be large or small. You could be developing new business technologies. I've just given the example of artificial intelligence because that's one of the fastest growing branches of business. Management is working specifically with people. You'll see lots of courses where you can study business and management together. They do go hand in hand, but this is specifically about helping people as they support a business and helping them to grow professionally. And entrepreneurship, lovely French word in there, means recognising the potential in new business or new business ideas and making them a success. You might, if you study business, have a passion for something else as well. So it could be sport or hospitality. There are loads and loads of business courses out there, but normally they're for dynamic, kind of driven people who recognise opportunities, but also like working well with others and are interested in getting the best out of people. The next job family are the humanities, which is a word that you might know, and you're definitely going to choose at least one humanities subject for your options, depending on how your school works. The clue is in the name. The humanities refer to the subjects to do with being human, so languages, writing, research, journalism, politics, law, and social science, which I mentioned before, those ologies. So humanities can relate to things like history, philosophy, which is the history and art of thinking, politics, archaeology, law, religious studies, languages. They're really communication heavy, all of these degrees. So you'll probably be someone, all of these jobs, you'll probably be someone who's interested in writing, research, journalism, maybe teaching or using languages. You might also be interested in what we call policy, so changing the world around you, so something like law, politics, charity work. Or you might be interested in social science. This is a kind of a job family in its own right, but if you're interested in the way that society works and the individual brain works, but also how society behaves, you might be interested in something like psychology, sociology, or criminology. If you are, I really recommend looking up the difference between them and the kind of jobs you can do relating to them, because there are always a lot more than people think. So you would be someone who's interested in the world around you and probably interested in learning from the past and changing the future as well, if you were looking at the humanities and social science job families. So our next one is very, very broad, but I've grouped them together because of the way and the way they work and the kind of people that work in them. So health, medicine, nursing, social care, policing, and uniformed services. Health, medicine and nursing are obviously people with specific training and expertise that provide medical care and support. Then just touching back on our social science friends for a minute, you've got things like psychology, counselling, therapy and working with people to support and improve their mental health or a specific issue. And we've got social services, so this is a service that helps people who are living in difficult circumstances to improve their circumstances or to resolve the situation that they're in. Policing and uniformed services are obviously quite different, but they are involved in protecting and supporting local, national or international communities depending on what they do. So in there we've got things like the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, obviously policing, but then we've also got the fire service, the ambulance service. The reason why I've grouped these together is because they're all highly trained people with a desire to help a specific part of society with their skills, but also all of these jobs have really, really clear career pathways. It's really important that you're trained in the correct way to do this job, and you can't do it if you're not. So unlike the arts or the humanities, there aren't as many different pathways in. You have to follow a specific path. That's no bad thing, but it means you need to start your research now if you're thinking about one of these to explore that pathway. Next up, and kind of closely related, we've got education, young people services and working with children. So obviously education can refer to teaching, but also being a teaching assistant or learning mentor, supporting those with disabilities and special education needs. It can be outreach, like the thing that me and my colleagues do, where we work with young people and decision making. It could be training new teachers. There are so many options. You've also got a branch of that which isn't necessarily related to formal education, so doesn't happen in schools and colleges necessarily, but things like youth work, social work and youth psychology, where you look at supporting people and young people and understanding them and helping them to get where they want to go. And we've got childcare and development, which is a very specialist area where you actually learn a great deal about how young children develop and how to support their skills and learning, and that can lead to things like working in nursery care, nannying, but also kind of teaching other people how to understand and work with very young children. So you would be what we call a caring communicator, so someone who's really, really interested in people, young people, and uses your skills to help them realise their full potential. Okay, so we're nearly there, just a couple more to go. Science, technology, engineering and maths, as I mentioned, is a huge area. It contains things like medicine, it contains things like design and engineering, but science as a whole relates to research and development, so finding out new things and using them to help the world to do things better. So it could be an area like sustainable energy, that's something we do a great deal of work on at Chester, or medical research or zoology. It could be to do with technology, so new hardware or software or systems designed to improve the human experience or explore new opportunities. So I've mentioned artificial intelligence again, online security, green energy, the possibilities are endless. And engineering actually relates to the design and creation of those new technologies. So that can be anything from space flight through to new medical equipment, but it's about designing and making those things a reality. Maths appears everywhere. Obviously, we're in the middle of a pandemic. It's the mathematicians that are helping us to work out how COVID moves and how it behaves and how we can fight it. So mathematicians really do get everywhere. So it can be something like I've just mentioned, like immunology through to spaceflight. It's really, really varied. But you would be someone curious and creative. People quite often think the word creative just relates to artistic people. That's not true at all. If you're good at your job, you're creative, and you have to be someone who thinks differently. So you use those skills to change the world around you. You don't always have to go to university, but for a great deal of these pathways, university can be very, very beneficial. Last but not least, we've got sport, leisure, travel and tourism. So these are quite different areas, but again, the people that do them have things in common. So obviously you might be considering being an athlete, and hopefully you're playing for a team and pursuing that, possibly in your own time, possibly through your school, but there are so many other jobs. So coach, trainer, business, sports management, physiotherapy, so it could be a medical NHS based course that you pursue. There are lots and lots of different areas. Don't think it's just being an athlete, because there are so many other things you can do. We've got leisure and travel and tourism, so people who look at events, national and international travel experiences. That could be anything from weddings through to organising huge conferences. It's so varied. But basically the people who work within this job family have a passion for a particular industry and a desire to share those positive experiences with other people. Okay, so that was a very, very quick hop, skip and jump through the job families, but I just wanted to touch on everything, albeit briefly, because you may have seen some things in there that you hadn't heard of before, or you may not have realised that your favourite subject has a huge job family related to it. So I would actually suggest, rather than just exploring one job family that interests you, have a very quick look at them all, because you've got lots of time. You also may change your mind as you go through your studies, and that's absolutely fine. As I mentioned at the beginning, all you can go off is what you like and what you know now, and doing that window shopping and finding out what there is. So be aware that you might not have met your dream job yet, but if you look for it, you're much more likely to find it. As I mentioned, your first educational independent decision is on the horizon, so it is important that you find out some information now, because you don't want to miss anything that could help you later. There are thousands of jobs. It's part of my job to know what a lot of them are, but even I don't know everything. Nobody does. So make sure you do that window shopping. You don't have to look at every job that exists, of course, that would be impossible, but use some of the websites I'm about to suggest and go and find out what there is. You need the right information to make the right decisions. Most people who don't know what they want to do, it's because they don't have enough information to decide. So the power is in your hands. You can rectify that whenever you like. Find out as much as you can. If you've got a really clear idea of what you want to do in the future, then research it and find out how to do it, and find out what jobs relate to it, because you might think you want to be one thing and then find out that there's a related job that's actually perfect for you. So even if you already know, now is not the time to sit back. Now is the time to research that job really thoroughly and its surrounding job family and find out more about it, so that you can get where you want to go. That's why we're providing all these resources and help, because we want you to get onto the right path, the one that suits you. So a couple of final things. Where should you look? One website that we use a lot and we really, really like is the UCAS Explore Jobs website. So you just Google that, you'll find it straight away. But just wanted to show you the landing page, because as you can see at the top in those 3 grey bars, you can search via a job family, you can search via a subject, or you can search via a skill. So if you're someone who's creative or a good communicator or organised, you can look for jobs that relate to that. And I really like the fact that you can search 3 different ways. That can really, really help, particularly if you're not sure what to do. There are loads of other places. You might have come across prospects.ac.uk before, which is a really good careers website designed for people your age. Lots of activities, diagnostic quizzes, job profiles on there. But also, if you are thinking about university, you could check out the UCAS course search, you could check out the Complete University Guide or Which University. That will just tell you a little bit more about the sorts of courses, what you need to get onto them. And it may feel really early to be looking at university when you're in year 9 or year 8, but actually you're just looking ahead and finding a little bit out. You don't have to remember everything I said or everything that you read, but just have a look and see what there is. But Prospects is a great one to check out. So do some research, find out what particular qualifications particular jobs require. Also consider what A levels or BTECs or T levels or apprenticeships they will ask for, because if you don't choose the relevant GCSE, it can take you a little bit longer to get onto that pathway. So find out what level 3 qualifications they ask for, and that will help you pick your level 2 qualifications. Find out what jobs are out there. As I said, you can't make decisions without all the necessary information. And also think about what GCSEs you're considering and how they relate to each other. What skill set do they give you, and does it match what you'd like to do in the future? If you're really not sure, these might sound daft, but I think they're a good place to start. Think about what your area of interest is. If it isn't a school subject, is it a particular hobby or interest, or something you do in your own time? This might sound very simple, but do you want to be inside or outside? There's nothing worse than having an office job if that's not what you want and you're a practical sort of physical person. So think about what kind of job it would interest you. Do you want to be someone who works practically or theoretically, lots of reading and writing or lots of doing? Do you want to earn loads of money or have a job that makes you happy? Most of us have to make a bit of a compromise there. Obviously, ideally you'll get both, but most of us have to make a bit of a trade-off between those two things. Is it somewhere, as I mentioned, that will help you keep working and training and learning? That's really, really important. Will it help you to do lots of other future jobs? Do you want to work by yourself or as part of a team? Do you want to be your own boss? Or do you want a salary? So do you want to work for someone else and get a salary, or be freelance and pay yourself? It's totally up to you, but that is a big difference. Above everything, remember, it's your life, your career, and your time. So if you do have any questions, if you let your teacher know, they can pass them on to us and we can get back to them and answer that for you. As I said, that was quite a quick tour through all the potential options, but I hope that's been useful. So now is the time to go ahead and make use of all the resources we've provided. I'd like to wish you the best of luck in making those decisions. And as I say, if there is anything else you'd like to know, please let your teacher know and we'll get back to you. All right, bye for now.